The night air hung thick and heavy over the city of Riverside, a quiet town that had always been safe, too safe. The kind of place where neighbors left their doors unlocked, and the most exciting thing on a weekend was the high school football game. But tonight was different. Tonight, the hum of the city's usual rhythm had been replaced by an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional wail of sirens in the distance. Detective Sarah Carter stood in the heart of Riverside's downtown district, her breath visible in the cold night air. Her eyes scanned the scene before her, a scene that should have been familiar, but now felt foreign. The flashing lights from the patrol cars illuminated the street, casting eerie shadows over the cracked pavement. A body lay just off the sidewalk, covered in a white sheet, but the bloodstains were unmistakable, soaking through the fabric. It was the first murder Riverside had seen in over 5 years. A shocking act of violence in a town that prided itself on its low crime rate. But what made it even more chilling was the fact that the victim was Officer Tom Holloway, a respected cop and longtime member of the Riverside Police Department. The same department Sarah had worked for nearly 10 years. She felt a shiver run down her spine as she glanced at the flashing lights. Holloway had been her colleague, a man she trusted. And now, he was lying lifeless, the victim of a brutal crime that no one could have predicted. Was it a random act of violence, or something much darker? Something that hit far too close to home? Detective Carter, a voice called out from behind her. She turned to see Officer Matthews, his face pale, eyes wide with concern. "You should see this." Sarah followed him to the nearby alley, her mind racing with questions. In the dim light, she saw something that made her stomach churn, a blood-stained badge lying on the ground. The badge was torn, as if someone had tried to rip it off. It was Holloway's. As she knelt down to inspect it, her mind flashed back to the time they had spent together in the department, the long hours, the laughs, the camaraderie. But now everything had changed. Holloway was dead, and someone had taken his badge. "Who did this, Matthews?" Sarah asked, her voice low and steady. But even she didn't know if she was asking him or herself. Welcome back to Crimes Exposed, a true crime channel. Before we dive deeper into this chilling investigation, I just want to remind you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on any of our future uploads. We post true crime, suspense-filled stories every week, and each case is more shocking than the last. If you're new to the channel, be sure to catch up with our previous videos to immerse yourself fully in these gripping tales. Now, let's jump right back into our story. The Riverside Police Department had always been a tight-knit group, known for their professionalism and loyalty. But Sarah had begun to notice things over the past few months. Small things. Little shifts in the way people behaved, like the way certain officers started avoiding eye contact with her, or how they seemed to talk in hushed tones when they thought she wasn't around. There were rumors swirling within the department, whispered in corners, exchanged in darkened hallways. Some of it was just office gossip, the kind that would die down after a few days. But there were moments, fleeting but noticeable, when Sarah caught a glimpse of something darker, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. There was talk of a drug ring being run within the department, of money laundering, of dirty cops. But Sarah wasn't one to jump to conclusions. After all, Riverside was known for its peace, its order. Until Holloway's murder shattered that illusion. As she started her investigation, Sarah couldn't ignore the growing suspicion that there was more to Holloway's death than met the eye. The man had been loved by many, but he had also made enemies, not just among criminals, but within the very department he worked for. As Sarah dug deeper into his life, she uncovered a web of lies, corruption, and betrayal. And it all led back to something no one had ever suspected. The people who were supposed to uphold the law might have been breaking it all along. In the days that followed Holloway's death, Sarah and her team launched a full-scale investigation into his life, his work, and his relationships. She conducted interviews with colleagues, friends, and family, each revealing more pieces to the puzzle. Holloway's wife, Laura, was devastated by the loss of her husband, but she seemed to carry a weight of her own, one that Sarah couldn't quite place. Tom wasn't just a cop, Laura said through tears. He was a protector. He loved this city. But there was something he started keeping from me. I didn't know what it was. The more Sarah interviewed, the more she realized that Holloway had been under a lot of pressure in the months leading up to his death. He had been investigating a string of police misconduct cases, looking into his fellow officers for corruption. But no one would confirm it. Everyone was too scared, too loyal to a system that was beginning to rot from the inside. Sarah soon realized that Holloway's death was just the tip of the iceberg. There were whispers of a drug ring, money laundering operations, and a long list of names she couldn't even begin to fathom. Some of the officers who had been close to Holloway were now acting suspiciously. It seemed like the more she uncovered, the deeper the corruption ran. With no concrete leads, Sarah began to question everything. Was it a rogue officer, a hit job from someone outside the department, or an act of revenge? The theories began to swirl in her mind, but nothing seemed to fit perfectly. She received an anonymous tip about a meeting that took place on the night of Holloway's death, a secretive late-night discussion in the back room of a local bar. But when Sarah attempted to track down the person who had left the tip, they vanished without a trace. The investigation stalled as Sarah was met with dead ends and roadblocks. The department, once her ally, now felt like a hostile environment, and the officers she once trusted became suspects in her eyes. One night, as she was reviewing the case files alone in her office, she noticed something strange, a small detail that had been overlooked. The bullet casings found near Holloway's body didn't match any weapon in the department's records. It was a small clue, but it was enough to shift the investigation in a new direction. Who could have planted those bullets, and why? Weeks went by, but Sarah didn't give up. She had a gut feeling that she was getting closer, even though she couldn't explain why. Then, one night, everything changed. A breakthrough came when Sarah was reviewing Holloway's old cases. She stumbled upon one, a closed case that had been filed away and forgotten. It involved a notorious local gang leader named Marcus Mad Dog Daniels, who had recently been acquitted of several charges due to a lack of evidence. Holloway had been part of the task force that had investigated Daniels, but something didn't add up. After some digging, Sarah discovered that Holloway had been investigating Daniels in secret, gathering evidence that could have brought the gang leader to justice once and for all. But why hadn't he gone public with the information? And why had he kept it hidden? The pieces started to fall into place. Holloway had been killed to keep his investigation quiet, and the officers involved in the cover-up were trying to protect their own dirty secrets. In the end, justice was served, though not in the way Sarah had hoped. After a tense standoff, several officers were arrested for their involvement in the murder and the corruption ring. But the deeper questions remained unanswered. Holloway had been right, and his sacrifice had exposed the rot at the heart of the Riverside Police Department. But it was clear that not all of the guilty had been caught. There were still dark corners of the department, hidden from view. Sarah left the investigation knowing that the truth had come to light, but at what cost? The badge she had once worn with pride now felt like a weight she could no longer bear. As the investigation closed, Sarah stood outside the Riverside Police Department, the weight of the case heavy on her shoulders. Justice had been served, but there were still shadows lingering in the corners of the department, questions that no one had the answers to. The truth had been exposed, but at what cost? And who else within the department was still hiding their secrets? Was Riverside truly safe, or was there more corruption left to uncover? The story of Detective Sarah Carter reminds us that justice isn't always served in the way we hope. Sometimes, uncovering the truth comes at a great cost, and even when we expose corruption, it doesn't always mean that everything is set right. The moral: stay vigilant, trust your instincts, and never let the weight of secrecy and lies cloud your judgment. In the end, the pursuit of truth may be messy and difficult, but it's the only way to ensure that the darkness doesn't continue to control us. Always seek the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, because it's the only way to protect the integrity of our communities. If you found this story thought-provoking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime tales. And drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Riverside is really safe, or are there still secrets waiting to be exposed? Stay tuned for more investigations, and thank you for watching.